We are live, just in time. Hi, Victor.
Hey, sorry.
No problem. We just went live, so we are on the airwaves on YouTube. So thank you to everyone who is joining us live on YouTube, or if you're watching this afterwards, thank you so much for coming on and hearing what we have to say. This is the second roundtable, live stream roundtable event that GAA has done. The first one we did back in January, and that was about bringing wild caught and aquaculture sides of the industry together to start creating a unified voice. And it was a really great discussion topic. And I would urge everyone to go back and check that out. We'll supply links afterwards. But this roundtable is titled Crisis Response. What is the seafood supply chain doing in response to the COVID-19 pandemic? So, how is the supply chain responding to this and doing what they can to stay strong? And we have brought a number of people here from around the world and from different kind of experiences and different aspects of the industry to talk about this and just get a discussion going. So, just like the last one, this is an open format discussion. If you have something that you'd like to say, just put your hand up, give me a little wave, and I'll make sure that I get to you next. My name is Shaun O'Laughlin. I work in the education department here at GAA, and we are joined today by Matthew Grolnic, who is the QA director at Atlantic Cape Fisheries. How's it going, Matthew?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Jason Carter, who's the assistant CMO at Baiyang Investment Group, coming out of China.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on today.
Sarabpreet Singh he's the general manager at Devi Seafoods. He's in India. Hi, Sarabpreet. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for keeping me on.
Victor Garrido is the QA director at Quirch Foods. Hi, Victor. Thanks for coming.
Hey, how are you?
And representing BAP and GAA here, we have Molly Jacques, who is the supply chain transparency manager for BAP.
Hi, everyone.
And Molly, I want to, let's get right into this conversation. I want to have you start things off because, you helped me plan this, so you got all the discussion topics on here. But me and Molly do a lot of these kind of things on here, so I know I can trust her to start us off on the right foot. So why don't you go ahead and start this conversation? How is the seafood supply chain responding to the COVID-19 pandemic?
Sure. I'm happy to start us off. Again, thank you everyone for coming on the roundtable. We thought it was really important. I think oftentimes in seafood, we forget to tell all the really positive things that are going on in our industry and what we're doing to make the world a better place. So we're so glad that you're here so that you can contribute and show our community out there what seafood is really capable of and how we navigate these big challenges that come up. So I just wanted to start us off today just to talk just quickly about what from the BAP and the GAA side of things, what we've been doing since the start of what's the start really of the pandemic, but since it's what we've been really doing to engage our customers. So from our standpoint, we've been reaching out to our facilities that are around the globe. We've had senior managers on those calls and just connecting with our customers, finding out what it is they are doing, how they are actually being impacted by the COVID-19 crisis, to have that discussion and figure out what we can do to support them. And navigate these rough waters. And the same thing goes, so when I talk about our customers, we're talking about our facilities that are certified around the globe or that we work with. And also from the market side of things, there have been obviously, if you look at the retail marketplace and grocery stores versus the restaurant business and the different segments of the market that are selling seafood out to consumers. Those are also part of our customer base. So we also are engaging in conversations with them to find out what their challenges have been. And then together, figuring out how we can work to either connect new people or connect each other to figure out how we can get through this together, right? So that's what we've been doing from the GAA and BAP perspective is really engaging our customers out around the world in all the different areas of seafood to figure out how we can support them during the crisis. So I'm excited to hear from each of you on the roundtable of what in your business, what you are doing to navigate. So I don't know, Shaun, is that if there's someone who, wants to kind of step in and talk a little bit about maybe how you've been impacted and the kinds of things you're doing.
Yeah, would anyone like to weigh in on kind of some of the changes that they've had to make or things that they've run into since this has happened?
Well, I guess I can break the ice on that. It's interesting enough because with some shortages of protein in the marketplace and the also pricing going through the roof with some of the traditional beef, pork, poultry. The people may have gone more into seafood because it was readily available, and also prices were sort of stable. So we've seen a small spike in consumption at the retail levels of seafood. So the way that we have adapted or adopted is being a lot of changes internally to how to handle the warehouse distribution part of it to make sure that there's the physical separation and all that, and that has at the beginning was a big headache. Now people are getting used to it, and then also the on the auditing part that we have been affected primarily. We were doing routine audits to our suppliers, and those have either been switched to internal quality control from the plants, or even remote audits via sampling via Skype, and then handing the samples to the companies at the front gate, and then they have to do it at their labs. So those are that I think have been the biggest two changes we have to do. One, the facility here in our DCs, and the other one is dealing with the remote audits.
Jason, what's been going on over in China in regards to the seafood supply chain? Because I think things kind of started off there with some of the restrictions and stuff, and then they kind of also started to lighten up a little bit over in China before they have over here. So what's been going on with the supply chain over there? Have you seen significant disruptions, or have you had to make any big changes or adaptations?
Well, we've sort of come out of the coronavirus a little bit earlier than the rest of the world, and to Victor's point about retail, we've experienced a huge demand in retail, which means we've had to put more people on our lines to accommodate the extra packaging that we have to do. With food service being down, that type of product is a standard IQF packed into a 10-pound box, for example, and with the retail side being up the way it is, we've had to put more people on the line, packing fillets into vacuum packed bags and then putting them into 1 and 2 pound bags in order to get product out in time. Majority of what we're doing at the moment is retail, and that's sort of to Victor's point, that the spike there. So if we take that back to the supply from China, that's what we're seeing at the moment, huge demand.
Matt, can you talk a little bit about how the retail food service, how that has shifted, or not shifted, but how that has also impacted you here in North America?
Yeah, sure. We were already a retail heavy operation. So what we found ourselves having to do is address and satisfy our customers that had lost the business from some of the companies that they are doing business with that were that had a majority food service and were basically just ceasing operations. So we picked up a lot of new retail, similar to what was just said on the China side. We picked up more retail. We picked up some, added some species that we hadn't done before to fill in the gaps.
Yeah. So supporting, obviously you said the segment of the market that's really struggling right now, on the food service
Right.
side, the ability for you to support on retail. That's great.
Right.
Yeah, just so we get an idea of what's going on, everywhere. Sarabpreet, can you just share a little bit of kind of what changes have come about in India?
Yeah, I think initially, since we had a lockdown since around 22nd of March. So initially when it started off, I think the first 1 week, 10 days, almost everything had come to a standstill. And I think the factories also ceased operations. But since the government prioritized seafood as an essential service, so I mean, we could start back production quickly, but with limited workforce. And from mid-April, I think the industry slowly started to move up. So during this time, we could see that the entire supply chain was affected, right from farming, where the farmers had a temporary issue with supply of feed because of the logistics, and stockings, new farm stockings also going down because of the restrictions, and hatcheries not being able to deliver seeds. So this was, the 2-3 weeks we had this issue. After that, I think since the logistics and all started opening up, we could slowly commence operation. But initially it was only low headless product, like low value added products. But as the workforce started to increase, I think this month, I think we are picking up slowly. We are sort of like 70 to 80% of a regular operation. And we have seen that the food service segment actually came to a standstill, but retail orders from our retail customers, orders had picked up. And also we see that they are now, because of all the disruption, there is delay in international shipping lines, and we actually are having now to plan for longer lead times for our inventory. And now this actually is an opportunity for us to work more closely with our suppliers and vendors, and as well as customers, to understand the linkages, and so any future disruptions what we have, so at least we can anticipate where they could be holdups, and so we plan for continuity.
Has anybody had to actually change their supply chain, who they're selling to or buying from, because of some of these disruptions? No?
Not really. We have stuck around with the same set of customers.
That's good news that you haven't had to make those some of those changes. I'm curious if anyone has seen any new innovations that have come about because of this and some of these disruptions that we've faced. I think we've made it pretty clear that the seafood industry itself did not actually take a really big hit from the repercussions from this pandemic that is still going on. But are any of you aware of any kind of newer innovations or big, I guess you could say, benefits that have come out of the situation that we're in right now? Have you seen anything that has caught your eye that maybe you're looking to implement in the future, or you're looking to just get a little more information on? Sarabpreet, go ahead.
What we have seen initially is at least certification bodies have permitted remote audits. So that's a welcome measure. So because the travel and all is actually across different states is not very clear because of the quarantine measures. So this is one good step. Already we had a chain of custody audit which was remotely done, so that went well. And we understand also farm and hatchery level also they are permitting the audits to be done remotely. And the second part for us, what we have seen is from the government side, there have been a lot of, when we ship out, there are a lot of certificates which are to be issued manually. So they have facilitated for application of the certificates online, and they have started issuing digital certificates, which probably wouldn't have happened before. So that is a significant way. I mean, some process time we save on that. And I think going forward also, I think the digitalization of various processes will be key.
I think
Molly, go ahead, Victor.
I'm sorry. I think we've seen similar things. The advances of remote audits, as well as some different gadgets that will be implemented, not necessarily right now, but in the near future in all factories. You know, some separation between the workers and like physical separation between workers and other things that are going to do. And definitely I think he has reassure or reemphasize the need for good manufacturing practices. You know, the hygienic practices within workers, the also the different chemicals that you are allowed or not allowed to use in food factories and things like that.
Awesome. Jason, you had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, it's not really an innovation, but the whole sort of farming model for tilapia in China has changed with this huge increase in demand from retail. The fish fillets that we put into retail bags are of smaller sizing. So one of the major things that have happened is at a farm base, the price for smaller size raw material and the price for bigger size raw material is actually the same. And in some cases, bigger size raw material is cheaper than smaller size raw material. And so a farming model in China has changed because of what's happening in the US with retail demand. So that's pretty interesting.
Molly, what have you seen, you know, from your end, because you do a lot of work with the suppliers and the retailers, kind of as the middleman between certifications and the supply chain and stuff. So what have you seen that people have, what reactions have you seen that people have been having to this?
You know, it's mixed. I was going to touch on that, but I was going to see if, I don't know if Matt, just to kind of keep piggybacking, I think on the manufacturing side, the comment that Victor had about some of the changes that they've seen in terms of process and manufacturing, because I think that Atlantic Cape says, you know, what they're doing and the product that they have, you might have just some nice insight from your operation, Matthew, that might just enlighten some, not enlighten, but it would help understand some of those changes, the ways that your business has changed to keep up with the pandemic.
Yeah, sure. Our definite focus on at least on my department side was initially fear of our people getting sick. You know, on top of worrying that our business was going to end, not knowing. We've been pretty aggressive in our facilities responding to it on the human side, from figuring out how to temperature screen people as a condition of entry into our facility, and how to do that legally without violating anybody's privacy rights or anything like that. Social distancing on the floor, modifying some of our processing lines, adding some conveyors to separate, to create greater distance with people. We're in the midst of installing plexi screens between workers as a secondary measure to the distancing. And to sort of piggyback on what I think it was Victor was saying, was that right. It's certainly refocused our facilities on GMPs and hygiene and you know, the need to continuously communicate that and monitor that with our people. Not that we weren't anyway, but maybe more so. And I think a lot of this is potentially, I hate to use like the new normal, but I mean, I think this might change a lot of the way we, our PPEs and our programs and everything have all been around the safety of food, and as far as from an illness-borne pathogenic microbiological, whereas you know there's definitely a new focus on achieving the same protections for the people.
And when you think about seafood, it's all about the people. It's those people that are raising, you know, seafood or catching seafood, processing, and having it flow through, you know, the supply chain. So I think that's a really great message that, you know, you always cared about the people that were there doing the work, but I think it's also really important for this kind of situation to have everyone refocus, you know, on really
Right.
what's important in that the human element of the seafood industry, right? And that's really, you know, what we're all doing here. So I really appreciate that part of the message is let's, you know, what are we trying to do? Who are we trying to keep safe? Obviously we want to put one of the healthiest protein we can on the table for the consumer, but let's make sure that we're taking care of everyone along the process, in the process. So I really appreciate that message. Is there any other ways that anyone would add? I know obviously, so Sarabpreet, you are looking at that full production chain. You know, Devi Seafoods is looking at the entire thing. So have there been any really big changes? I know you spoke a little bit about workforce and reductions and things like that, but is there anything else you would add from the production side?
Yeah, on the production side, I mean, we have started, we are from March itself, we had that screening. We started the screening and putting new policies and training workers on social distancing and extra hygiene washes. And then the transport vehicles, which we have, we are reduced the capacity to almost 1/3 to accommodate social distancing. So they are doing more rounds to get the workers into the factory. And of course, there's a frequent, we have the hygiene checks, and they are already providing, PPEs are already provided to them. And with the lesser workforce, also the social distancing is working for us. And fortunately, we haven't had any issue so far.
I think it's important to note that seafood suppliers, particularly processing facilities, were kind of ahead of the game already when this happened, because they, especially facilities that have been audited and certified by different certification groups like BAP or ASC, MSC. Well, not MSC, but they were already taking every precaution for seafood safety, for food safety in general, which is going to give them a head start. Just like Matt was saying, it's going to give them a head start on what they need to do to protect their workers as well. So we were in a pretty good place. And I want to emphasize that this is not a food safety issue that we're dealing with in this discussion right now. It's a human safety. This is a social and a human health issue that we are dealing with right now. And so I want to reassure to anyone who is a viewer or a consumer, you know, that supply of safe, responsible seafood is still as strong as it was, correct? Has anyone seen any issues with the actual supply of responsible, safe seafood that they can, you know, get out into the markets?
Yeah, we haven't.
You have, Matthew?
I'm saying we have not seen any change in the incoming supply at all.
Yeah, so that's something to really note is, there's been some issues with terrestrial proteins and some shortages, and I think a lot of that is due to, and this is just my personal opinion, it seems like a lot of that is probably due to um, shipping, transport restrictions, things like that. But we haven't seen quite the shortage in seafood that we've seen in terrestrial proteins. So why do you guys think that is? Why have we not been experiencing the same kind of issues that other proteins have been? Can anyone speak to that? Go ahead.
Victor?
Yeah, I think, to one sense, I think it's luck, because of the timing. Remember when this thing was hot and heavy in China, they were in the middle of the Chinese New Year. So everybody, including ourselves, already programmed the month-long gap in supply. Everybody imports a lot of product before the Chinese New Year, and to carry them over. And so that impact from China was not felt in reality, because the only thing they did was they extended the Chinese New Year a few more weeks, and everybody with the inventory locally was able to handle it. Then the gap in India also was timed with some of the seeding part and things like that. So at least for us, we shipped stock before India went into lockdown, and now we may be seeing a little bit of a Indian product shortage in the near future, but it also coincided with a gap in production that was normal or programmed. So for us, and Vietnam and Indonesia haven't really stopped production. We've had some delays because I think I don't know if it was Sherry or Matthew that mentioned it, there's been a shortage in the empty containers, refrigerated containers, and that had delayed the chain. But in reality, seafood hasn't been affected by a shutdown of major processing plants like the terrestrial ones, chicken, pork, and beef in the United States. And also, it's not as centralized as the terrestrial, because you have a mega plants in the US
Right.
that will shut down. I mean, it affects 10-15% of the production.
That's a really good point. Seafood is very diverse. People are sourcing from all over the world, and if maybe you're struggling to get production out of one country, you may be able to shift to a different country. But I also appreciate a little bit of luck, which I think maybe we're often missing in the seafood industry. There always seems to be something that's preventing us from really pushing forward. So it's nice to actually have a little bit of luck on our side as well.
Yeah, and that's the first time that's been brought up. I didn't even think about that, the timing with the Chinese New Year. We've spoken to a lot of people on our platforms, such as the podcast, about what's going on and kind of what changes have been happening. And that's the first time that's come up. It's interesting to think about how we were kind of, you can never prepare for something like this, but the seafood industry was in a good spot for it to happen when it did. Thank you for bringing that up, Victor. That was interesting. So, we've mentioned that seafood is doing okay. We're in a good place. We're figuring it out. What activity has anyone's businesses done? Any activities or participated in any programs or anything that can help others as we all go through this? Because, like I said, it's not a food safety issue. It's a human issue, and anything that we can do to help anyone else is going to be really, really important. So, can anyone speak to anything that they've been involved in that can help others during this time?
Yeah, I think I mean India we had the issue of migrant workers moving around, and I mean because of a lot of businesses staying closed. But fortunately, in seafood, I mean we have been helped them stay put in the place, and we have been able to provide them work, and most of them stay in the dorms. So they have continued to stay even in spite of the lockdown, and they didn't have to travel out. So I mean that one way we from our part we could uh, help that prevent that migration, and see ensuring their livelihood is secure.
Molly, it looked like you had
Oh
something to say
yeah,
earlier, but you were muted. Sorry.
totally muted. I was asking you actually if there was, so that was really a great Sarabpreet from, inside, your business world, you were able to really support, workers that you have. I was going to ask, did you mean from a business perspective, Shaun? So is there a way that, each of you in your business, like, is there a way that you are supporting fellow businesses, right? Obviously there's competition in the field, but is there anything that your companies are either engaging in, or that you would be willing to engage with or support, just the seafood community in general?
Yeah, that's great, Molly. Thanks for clearing that up. Victor, why don't you go ahead, and then Matthew.
Yeah, just real quickly on the business side, what I've seen is the some companies that have been heavy on the food service side. They've been reaching out to other companies such as ours that have a retail outlet, and and we've been able to redirect some of that inventory to our customers, and that helps two ways. It helps them get rid of that inventory, and also helps us in case of there's a shortage of certain products, whatever. So we've been able to help each other on those, and I think there's been more and more communications amongst industry, amongst companies. There was before a camaraderie there, but now I think there's even more, where you communicate. How's your situation? How's your inventory? What are you doing? I have a program here that I need materials. Do you have any, or how can we work it out? So from that point, and from the social part, I think the one of the things that we've been engaging in is with food banks, and maybe some of that food service inventory that was stocked in our freezers. We have been able to also do some donations, and find outlets like that, that would help that part, and relieve some of the pressure that some people have.
Matt, you had something?
Yeah, it's not going to be a whole lot different than what Victor just said, but we've done some donations. We have, there's definitely some information sharing, more on the social side. I have been talking to other like people in my area, and we've been sharing ideas on how best to handle this on the social side. And I will just say that I'm more than happy to do that as well. If anybody's unsure of their direction, I feel very confident in our current plan, and I'm happy to share it.
That's great. That leads me right into my next talking point, which I'd love to hear all of you weigh in on. What recommendations can you guys give from your perspective to others in the seafood industry at this time? We have a pretty good representation with you guys here, with North America, Latin America, India, China, but we have some folks in the chat room that are from Canada and Germany. We got folks from all over the world, and I'm sorry we couldn't get their perspective on this right now. But what recommendations or advice can you guys give to some other folks in the industry right now that could help them pull out of this, or make sure that they do the right thing to make sure that they survive at the end of it? Anyone? Sarabpreet,
So
thanks.
yeah, so I think it's important to work with your suppliers to keep them posted on your requirements and how things will move and how things are shaping up at their end, and that's from the business side. And probably the just-in-time inventory model will for this and in this situation probably will not really work well. So they will have to plan some extra lead time. And then second part on the food safety part, I think it'll be good for all the companies to share their best practices and which works for them or which doesn't work for them, so that we can keep improving and see which way of monitoring the worker safety works well. So I mean that will be very important information sharing, especially with regard to worker safety.
On my end, I think that what I would recommend is for people to, especially if you're in a factory or warehouse environment, is to ensure the safety of the employees. That's one of the things that that we have to be dealing with is how do you put things in place that not only protect them but also make them feel safe, and how you react if somebody got infected by the affected by the virus or have been in contact with somebody else. What are the things in place that you have in there? Because if not, you get massive panic on your workforce, and everybody's just gonna walk out because they feel afraid. So I think if that would be the main thing that I would recommend is to be transparent with your workers and also put everything in place to make them feel safe and truly protect them from this.
Great points all around. Jason, do you have anything you want to weigh in on, or I don't mean to put you guys on the spot, but I kind of do mean to put you guys on the spot.
I was just going to, I like Victor's comments a lot about that. I think protecting the workers and making sure they're safe and a safe work environment is really important. It was for us, you know, we have multiple factories over different provinces. So we had regulations in different provinces that we had to deal with. And you know, even people at the time when COVID was pretty bad in China, trying to get people back into factories was difficult for us, but through procedures and making sure everyone feels safe to show up to work and you know, safe to go back to their dormitories is really important. So your procedures are very, very important, or they were for us, and they worked.
That's great. So we're just about wrapping up. We won't go for too much longer, but I want to harken back to kind of some things that we spoke to earlier on when we were talking about innovations or adaptations with this, and you know, we all kind of had to jump into new technologies or utilizing technologies in different ways now that we can't. You know, there's restrictions on travel and communications. Victor, you talked about a lot of audits having to go remote. And I know that that's been a bit of a, Molly, you can speak to this too. Yeah, that's been a bit of a bottleneck for certifications and some of the sustainability assurances that are out there. Molly, can you just talk about some of the issues that facilities have had in regard to that, and if that it has been affecting their supply chains?
Sure. So just from obviously, we've spoken a little bit about remote audits or even extensions. Sorry about any background noise if anyone hears that. So it has been a challenge. I think it's one of those things when you're third-party certification, it's really important. The integrity of the program is really critical, right? So that's been one of the challenges, is making sure, you know, you're maintaining the integrity of your program while changing the way that you have done your business. So there have been some, we've been working, from the BAP side of things and other certifications. Extensions has been one of those ways that we're trying to buy some time so that we can either get physical audits done or work through the remote audit process. So there have been some shifts and some delays, but it's a work in progress. We're constantly navigating that space. So I think that what we may find going forward is that, whether it's, and I think we spoke a little bit about it throughout this call, is those efficiencies that we found in navigating the crisis. Those will become new parts of our business, the way we do things, right? And so it's the same way the BAP program is, where we stand on, it's continuous improvement. So we're constantly improving our standards, or, businesses are constantly, improving their process. It has been, that's just something that I think as we continue forward, we'll take those changes that have been made, and those will become just regular, business as usual going forward. So I think that's what we found. And, I know it sounds horrible, the crying on it's not all tears. We are finding those good things, and we're putting them into our everyday business. So I think that's sort of how we navigated.
Yeah, I know that remote audits has been a hot topic in most of our calls at GAA and BAP. Do any of you think that this pandemic is going to have any lasting effects on the industry, either good or bad? What do you see moving forward in the future as more permanent changes in this industry, whether for the better or for worse? Does anyone care to speak on what they think is going to come down the line? Or any changes that we talked about previously that you have made, where with remote audits, with, the PPE, separation, social distancing, stuff like that. Do you anticipate any of those changes being a more permanent part of your production process? Who someone was going to speak? Yeah, Matt.
Yeah, I had a few remote audits. I think I kind of have mixed feelings about them. I think that they're harder and take longer. Only the communication back and forth spreads it out longer. But I think from a cost and overall time standpoint, I think that there is a middle ground somewhere where having somebody come and stay with you for 5 full days, maybe we will realize that that's not as necessary. Did I lose you?
I think his audio might have cut out for a second.
Oh,
did everyone get
sorry.
that? No problem. Jason, Sarabpreet, or Victor, do you have any insights on what you think, any permanent changes down the road? Yeah, Jason?
I was just going to say, just looking at this in a positive way, and going back to the increase in retail that we've had, I hope this lasts. But I think it's great that people have had the chance to go into the retail store and buy seafood that perhaps they wouldn't have bought before, take it home, try it and eat it. And that can only be positive for all of us in the seafood industry. People going in and trying something that they may not have tried before because they're cooking at home a lot more. And I hope that demand remains.
Yeah, I've heard some reports. I can't cite them right now, but I have heard some reports of specifically frozen seafood going up significant percentages. Some specifics even up to 70%. I've heard increase in sales on the retail level, which is, it's a give and take, because there is some, there's a decrease in sales to restaurants, food service, obviously, but a higher increase in sales from the retail point of view. So there is kind of that balance there, but I think it's a great I don't want to say this is a good opportunity because we all wish that this wasn't happening around the world, obviously, but it is an opportunity for the seafood industry itself to, um, get a wider palette out there for the consumers and get their product out there and have a more increased consumption down the road after we're out of this, just because more people have tried it. So that's a really great point. Victor, you had something you wanted to say as well?
Yeah, I think the what they've been calling the new normal, I think is going to stick, at least for the
Yeah.
short term, which is, more people cooking more at home, trying different things, making not necessarily just a routine, a meal at home, but more, also celebratory, dinners at home with fancier, products or ingredients that typically only are consumed at restaurants. That's one. The other thing is the trends in the factories and warehouses. I think it's going to stay for a long time, of the protections, gears, separation, the hand washing and, sanitizing, et cetera. So those patterns, I think, are going to hang around, at least for the next couple of years, and you'll see more development in technology, I think, and, as far as the, just to pick up on Matt's, comment on the remote audits, this was like the schools that they got thrown into a virtual school from one day to the other, so they had to scramble and make something out of it. I think that the remote audit, may develop into something that will be, maybe will go 1 year remote audit, or electronic audit. The next year would be a physical audit. So that's going to reduce
Exactly.
a little bit the pressure on the, on travel and on physical, things and cost. So those trends, I think, are going to hold on, for a little bit, if not forever. So.
That's great. Jason or Sarabpreet, do you have any points?
Yeah, on the positive side, if you look at it, with all the lockdown and whatever is going on, I think everyone is more focused and cautious about hygiene and sanitation. So that helps you in your production, that all your employees are more aware of what is going on, and with regard to production, and you'll probably require lesser monitoring because they'll self monitor. So that is on the positive side, and probably we could see more of automation on the production side, to maybe to wherever there's more of human interaction, to reduce handling of the product. I mean, we could see something coming up in the future if the situation continues.
Yeah, it's there are some things that are going to need to be implemented in regards to, like what you said, like the safety protocols for people, the PPE. You've all kind of brought it up, that we can only hope just sticks around forever, because it just makes your company better, and it makes you a better producer. What about, the we're talking about the supply chain and how the supply chain is reacting to this, and a big part of the seafood supply chain is restaurants.
Yes.
And what do you anticipate, is going to change down the line? Because right now, the sales to restaurants is just plummeted. And, how long do you think it's going to take for that part of the supply chain to get back in the action of everything? And what shifts do you see happening in the near future and in the distant future? Does anyone have any insight on that? Restaurant
Probably
sales?
restaurants will probably, I think restaurants will see more of takeaway business will go on rather than the dine-in. So probably products requirement for which cater more to portion pack product, or which is easier for the restaurants to cook and serve, will come up, and maybe more value added product in the retail. So I mean, as people adjust to the new normal, then probably more innovation will come, and then probably will flow back to the, I mean, to the production sources, where we need to adjust the production to change either the packaging or value addition what we need to deliver. So that
it'll
will
be a
probably
little
take some time. Yeah.
yeah, so you think it'll be a shift in the type of product that we're producing to make sure that there's something that's usable for restaurants as they need to make changes.
Yes, yes. And restaurants are also, I read they are offering some semi-made, ready-made meal kits, and also something like that probably will uh, consumption of those products will probably increase, and then with more volume, probably you'll have it more. You can get more economical products.
Yeah, interesting. I'm curious, Sarabpreet. I don't want to block anyone else out, but
Yeah.
are restaurants open in India right now, or are they only open for takeout?
Yeah, they're opening up from it. They already opened up for takeout from this Monday. From next week, next Monday, I think they're all open.
Okay, so do you get the sense that people are going to be doing more dining in once those restaurants are able to do that?
I think initially the people will be reluctant, because
A little
even
more
the
cautious,
products, even the products which come home for delivery, people are sort of sanitizing the products and then taking care. And then once we have clear, I think as with time, you'll know how the virus behaves and what kind of precautions are more apt. And some places we might not be acting, and some places we might be doing more than what is required. So once something evolves, more about the virus, then we have a more efficient way to deal with it, and then people will be more confident in going out.
Yeah, Jason, what about in China? What's the restaurant vibe over in China right now?
Yeah, I was just going to say, sort of in the last couple of weeks, it's really, I wouldn't say it's back to normal, but it's certainly a lot more people dining out. Just a few days ago, I went to the shopping mall, which is within a mile of where I live, and certainly a lot of people eating out and enjoying being in the mall and getting out and about. Does seem to be a younger crowd, but definitely seen a big spike and increase in people just wanting to get out and eat out, which is nice to see.
Great. Victor, do you have a point of view on that?
Yeah, no, well, just very short. In what we've seen here in South Florida is the they're tending or trending towards outdoor seating. So even restaurants that didn't have outdoor seating, now they are either closing the boardwalk or the street or the sidewalk, and putting out tables and chairs, because people seem to be more comfortable outside. And on top of that, they are able to increase density, because we're only allowed to dine in 50% capacity indoors, and that's not going to pay the rent. So they are kind of subsidizing it by outdoor seating.
Yeah, we've been seeing that in New Hampshire as well. And Molly, I don't know what you've seen in Massachusetts. I haven't really ventured into Massachusetts in a couple of months, but we've been seeing the same thing. Some restaurants have started to open up a little bit, blocking off parts of their parking lots, and putting tables out there at separated at certain distances. So it's an interesting thing. But I know here in the States, people are really clamoring to get back for dining in at restaurants. So I'm interested to see, once that opens up, kind of how how that's going to affect the seafood sales here in the U.S. But it was great to hear about what's going on in other parts of the world. So we only have about 5 more minutes. So thank you guys so much for joining us. And I wanted to see if any of you had any last comments you wanted to say, or if you had any questions for anyone else on the call. No? All right. Well, if not, thank you guys so much. Again, we are joined by Matthew Grolnic from Atlantic Capes Fisheries, Jason Carter from Baiyang Investment Group, Sarabpreet Singh from Devi Seafoods, Victor Garrido from Quirch Foods, and Molly Jacques from BAP and GAA. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you, viewers, for watching and listening and taking the time, and everyone that's been active in the chat. I haven't had a chance to review that yet because obviously we've been in conversation, but if you have questions for any of our presenters today, or myself or Molly or anyone else at GAA, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'll supply some email addresses afterwards to anyone who registered on the Eventbrite page. But if there's nothing else, guys, thank you so much. Really appreciate you helping out, and good luck with your businesses.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Great.